I'm here with George Hawkins, Director of Special Events, and we're here at the Gatlinburg Convention Center. George, thanks for being with us today.
It's my pleasure.
Now, you're the head of special events. Tell me, what do you think or what do you do to just try to make them a little better every year?
Every year we try to come up with a different element for an old event to keep people coming back, keep people excited, keep a new element in every event we do every year.
Well, it's so important to our residents, people that live here in Gatlinburg, and to our tourists, to our guests that come. They really look forward to it. Tell me what's coming up in the near future.
We've got 4 exciting events that I'd like to talk about briefly today. The first thing we've got coming up is in November, our Veterans Day.
Don't you love it when the Harleys come by?
That's good business. It's our Veterans Day program. It's one of 2 Veterans Day sanctioned programs by the Veterans Association.
Where's the other one?
It's Nashville.
Oh, okay.
And there's about 30 sanctioned events in the United States, so we're very, very proud of that distinction. And we have a wonderful program. We usually have about 500 on the plaza at the aquarium, so that's maximum capacity. I'm just thrilled to death with our Veterans Day program. And as you will remember, this is a program you asked for us to do back years ago.
Absolutely.
And it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And we try to have a different speaker every year. We usually have a high-powered general come in. We have
Who's coming this year?
That's Major General Terry M. Max Haston. He's the Adjutant General for the Tennessee National Guard.
So he'll be a great speaker.
And we're fortunate to have him. He's a very important person.
Good deal.
Then we have Walter State Community College. They do some music. Gatlinburg Pittman High School Band does some music. Then we have the Knoxville Pipe and Drum. We have a great program.
Oh, it's always good. And how important. I mean, it's a great event. What else do we have? After that, we have the Winter Magic Kickoff. It starts November the 9th with the chili cook-off. And we'll close the parkway from traffic light number 6 up to the chairlift. We'll have about 25 food vendors. So for $8, you can get a wristband and eat away all night. And we've got the Tams coming back, a popular demand. They're the Motown music group from the 50s and 60s. Everybody loves them. Right.
And then we'll have probably 6 more roaming type musical groups up and down the street. So if you don't want to be in front of the stage, there'll be groups sprinkled throughout the event.
It's sort of like Tunes and Tales, that type of thing?
We're using a lot of Tunes and Tales because people really enjoy the Tunes and Tales music.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And it's right downtown on the main street, the Parkway. People that aren't familiar with this, called the Parkway. But so you close the street down and have the street festival right there, chili cook-off right on the street.
People really enjoy that too. There's just something about being in the street. So we accommodate them, and everybody seems to be real happy now about that. And then we've got the Harvest Festival decorating contest, and then the Christmas decorating contest that all the businesses in town participate. So you have a lot of really exciting decorating going on among all the businesses. Plus the winter lights, we're all LED now. So we've got a bunch of beautiful lights here. We've got the trolley light tour for $5. You can drive all over Gatlinburg and see all the different displays.
Speaking of trolleys.
Yeah. And we've had a real good success this year with our free trolley on the Parkway.
That has been good.
So,
George, what else do we have coming up?
Well, we just got over a great 9/11 ceremony on the plaza, and we're going to be doing that about every 5 years. So. Instead of every year, we'll do it about every 5 years. Then we've got the big Christmas parade coming up. It'll be televised on WBIR the Saturday before Christmas, probably at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
I need to check that, but that's what we've had in the past, and I think that's what we're going to be able to do again. So we have about 80,000 people come and watch the parade live. And then we've got another 80,000 on TV that are going to see it. So it's well covered. We have great participation. Kevin Tierney puts it on Channel 4, so people can review that during the Christmas season
and people just love to watch that parade on Channel 4. And every once in a while it's on 69, that's countywide.
Right.
So that's good advertising for all the business community, you know, that want to sponsor floats and different things for the parade.
You know, I know when people in Gatlinburg think of a parade, they think of George Hawkins and how you actually started the 4th of July parade, the first parade in the nation. Anything else we have coming up?
Absolutely. Let's climax our year with New Year's Eve.
Oh, absolutely. And it happens right down here.
It does at the Space Needle. And we have several shows. We have a show from the shaft. We have a show from the top. And we light up rooftops. And every year I try to get a new participant to give me their roof to do safe fireworks. They're not the kind that shoot up and have fallout, but they light up and illuminate the whole area. It's beautiful. Those are usually in greens and red tones. We do a waterfall around the top of the Space Needle that's gorgeous. It's a short waterfall because we don't want it going all the way down and bouncing back up. So, but the fireworks are not just they're going straight up from the roof.
Oh, it's
but
beautiful.
from the shaft they're going out, or they're going around, or they're flashing on the shaft. So it's an interesting show because it's not just shooting them out from the ground. So people just love that. And then we have music in the street where everybody gets a chance to dance and hear music. And it's one of the busiest nights for the restaurants in town. And it's just hard to walk up and down the streets of Gatlinburg that night.
And then there's a ball drop also, right? Right at midnight?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So it's a mini Times Square.
It's really, the ball drop sort of signifies the lighting of the fireworks. Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, and we appreciate Ron Hensley for his use of letting us set the Space Needle on fire, so to speak, you know, with fireworks. But he's been real great with that, and it's just really good for business on New Year's Eve. It's a good way to end the year.
Sounds like a lot of just wonderful special events coming up. And if people want more information about them, they can go to gatlinburg.com.
Our main number is 865, that's our area code, 436-0500.
Very good.
0500. And they can get any kind of information there. We usually have tickets to everything that's going on, chili cook-off, rib fest, anything like that.
That sounds great. Sounds great. George, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're here today in Mills Conference Center, and I'm here with Cindy Ogle, our city manager, and we're going to be talking about some of the things about the city. Cindy, tell us what's going on in Gatlinburg.
Well, let's see. How much time have we got?
We've got all afternoon.
Let me just, Mayor, start by talking about some. I try not to make this boring, but yet it's really the very heart of how the city operates and the things that we do, and that would be related to the city budget in the process that, as you know, we just completed about a month ago as to final reading, and now the new budget is in place. And so I'll just kind of talk in general from my perspective about it, and then I'm sure folks would like to hear your perspective about it. But we have, of course, come off of 3 very difficult fiscal year cycles, and let me remind everyone that that's a July 1 through June 30 is what that means in our little bureaucratic world and most of governmental worlds. And so we've had 3 very difficult fiscal years, as you're very well aware of. And so you know, I would look out here and say, so what's new? So is everybody. So have all the households, businesses, the whole United States of America, and I guess maybe even the whole world. It's been a difficult time. So we really have been about, as you know, curtailing expenses over this 3-year period. And one of the main ways that we have been able to manage the downturn in the economy, and that therefore the downturn in the city revenues, just like again in household income and in business income, is to reduce the number of city employees, quite candidly. And the way that has been done has been through what is called through attrition. and that means voluntary departures of people, primarily with retirements. Some just voluntarily leaving. Most of this has occurred through retirements, and a couple of involuntary situations, but primarily it's been voluntary departures of people. So as positions have become vacated, we have taken a very serious look at, do we need that position? Can we reorganize and do something different and reduce the number of employees, eliminate the position? And coupled with that, let me back up and say that we had a freeze on hiring, as you know, for 2 years anyway. So even as positions got vacated during that time period, we were not filling them. But through this whole process, we have reduced the number of employees, and I'm going to look at a couple of notes here so I'll make sure that I get them correct. We have reduced the number of full-time, year-round, what we call classified employees by 37, and that represents a 12% reduction in the employee the numbers of employees for the city organization. Peak employment was sometime around 2003, and there were 309 classified employees, and as I said, it's down by 37 to, I have that number of course covered up, 272. And that has been the most significant way that we have been able to manage curtailing the expenses.
You know what I've learned in my experience being on city council and being mayor, that Gatlinburg, to run the city's very similar to running like a large corporation, a large business.
Right.
And when business is really good, everything just rolls right along, but when business slows down, then you have to make some adjustments.
Right, just like you have done it in your business.
You have to.
I'm sure, and businesses throughout this town have had to do that. And so that's no different than, of course, of what the city should do. You know, we should be no different, as you're saying, and the whole idea, and this is not to get too, not to pontificate too much, is that the whole idea of the form of government that we have is just exactly what you're saying, is to attempt to run the city as much like a business as can be.
And what's great is that we've had some good fund balance, and a lot of cities
Right.
haven't been that fortunate to have that.
Right.
And I mean, a lot of them are in bad shape.
Right.
They're in trouble, and we're rolling along and
Right.
hoping the business, does pick up a
Right.
bit better, but we're in better shape than a lot of people.
Right, and I appreciate your saying that, because the fact of the matter is that we do have sound fund balances, which basically means the savings account for the different funds of the city, of which there's 5 or 6 primary funds of the city. We do have good fund balances, and we have not had to use, in my opinion, as much of those monies as other governments that I'm aware of. The previous 2 fiscal years combined would probably be close to $750,000, $600,000-$700,000, which sounds like a lot and is a lot, and we've never done that in any budget in any fiscal year that I've been involved with the city prior to the Great Recession. But when you consider the fact that lots of governments are dipping into their fund balances to the tune of millions of dollars,
Right.
and even in establishing their budgets for this fiscal year that we're talking about, that we've just established this budget, there's no proposed usage of fund balance.
Another
So-
thing that I've always really appreciated from my perspective is, I know that you and David Beeler spend hours and hours
Yes, sir.
and weeks and months on the budget, and then when it's presented to the City Commission, it's very easy for us to understand in every department where they're at, what their needs are, and basically it puts us in a position that we can make some good decisions, some good choices, and make some good ideas
Right.
also.
Well, I appreciate that, but that's of course what we're paid to do. But I do appreciate that, and David Beeler is key in this whole process, and so I'm glad that you mentioned him. But looking again here at notes, I want to make a couple of other statements about it. This is the previous 2 budgets were based on a negative revenue projection. First time in years that, if ever, that the city has had to do that. This budget is based on a flat revenue projection, so we think it's still very conservative. We are concerned about this summer season being softer than what we thought it would be. We're not exactly sure what those numbers are yet. We're still in the process of collecting July receipts is really what I'm talking about.
And that's a big month.
Yes, it's a huge month. If you don't make the revenue projection in July, you're behind the eight ball the rest of the year, rest of the fiscal year. I think that we're going to be close to meeting that flat revenue projection. I know that as if any local business people are watching this, they're probably saying, hey gal, I sure wasn't flat, I was down. Or, but you know, for the city, of course, some businesses are up, some businesses are down. We have new businesses that are adding to the city revenue situation. So I totally want to express that I know this and I understand this, and so I know that I'm speaking from a very broad perspective as it relates to the city income. But it does appear that we will hopefully, as a city, have a 0%. And you know, you and I have discussed the fact that last summer season was really, what's the word, spiked up by the displacement of by the BP oil spill,
which was horrible for the Gulf, and we hate it for them.
Right. But it had a huge
here.
impact here, and not just in Gatlinburg, but as we all know, throughout the whole county. So I think that, coupled with the terrible storms that occurred in the spring of this past year, and
some of our feeder markets,
exactly, Alabama, Georgia, those even East Tennessee areas that were so impacted. So I think that had an impact. And then I think just in general, the whole concern about what the U.S. government was going to do about their own budget and their own debt service amounts and those kind of things. Just crazy conversation going on up there certainly didn't help people's confidence level about, well, let's load up and let's go up to the mountains for a couple of days. You know, so I think those things came together, but I think hopefully we're going to be all right with our flat revenue projection. I'm hearing that fall business is looking good, and you indicated that to me actually earlier today.
Advanced bookings, they do look good, and you know, the September was not as good as some of the Septembers in the past, but it still wasn't too bad. And I think you and I both, we can just tell by looking at the numbers of people that are here, you know, if business is going to be good or not. But I think, you know, Gatlinburg still is very appealing, it's very accessible, and it's affordable. So people know that it's, you know, everybody needs to get away sometimes. So I think we will be.
And you know, the other aspect about us is that we are compact in nature, which means that the public infrastructure as well as the private infrastructure, of course, is the smallest of anywhere in the county. And didn't used to be that way 100 years ago, but that's the way it is now. And it does, I think, make it more manageable for us as a government, certainly, that we are able to reduce employee numbers. We are able to sustain we have a smaller town, if you will, that enables us to be able, I think, to withstand these very difficult fluctations of revenue.
I agree.
That larger towns may not be able to do as well. And I guess again, to look at my notes, one last comment in particular about the budget, which now this is going to sound like I may be talking out of the other side of my mouth, and I'm truly not, but also for the last 2 years, due to the difficult budget situation, we've bought no equipment, and that has not been good and has been of great concern to us. So in this budget, we were able to create a vehicle replacement fund. Actually, is what we did. As you know, we had an internal committee look at some things. David and I kind of put together a group of some of the other managers in the organization and said, look, sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees, so we want your perspective on this, and got their perspective. And then if you remember, we even asked MTAS, which is the University of Tennessee Municipal Technical Advisory Service that's worked to help cities throughout the state for many, many years. And they took the work of that internal committee, and then they came up with a vehicle replacement program recommendation study, and that's pretty much what we all embodied and you commissioners endorsed. And so we have set up a vehicle replacement fund, which is, this is a different approach for us to take, and we hope we can sustain it, and it's going to just totally depend on revenues in that. But we are looking to to trying to catch up, which is hard to do, but to try to catch up and spend some money on some much needed equipment, and we're already in the process of getting bids put together and doing that.
That's why I was going to ask you when this would actually begin.
We're already in the process of putting together bids. We're the departments that are involved in the purchases to be made are already in that process, and so hopefully we'll be able to get some new equipment in here even before the end of the year, into the calendar year. Now, lots of this equipment is related to the sanitation department, and therefore we're talking garbage containers, and those take a while to build.
Right.
An ambulance,
you just can't go pick one up.
Yeah, right. An ambulance is on the list, but then there's there's some pickup trucks, there's some patrol cars. Those things are more readily available, but this is something that I really we really set as a priority as we were working on this budget. If there's any way possible, we've got to get back into funding some equipment, and so we were able to do that, and appreciate the Commission's support as we created this new program and this new fund.
And that's another just example of when business is tight, you have to be a little bit creative, a little proactive, and figure out how you can get something done, opposed to just in the past how it could just happen.
Right,
so,
right.
Good things.
Okay. So I think that is, it's a real generic and hopefully less boring discussion about the fiscal year 2011-12 budget.
Cindy, we've always talked about the marketing of the city, and we want to bring in new guests, and then we always want to make sure that our product is always improving. And we are right now in the 6th phase of undergrounding, which is hard to believe.
It is.
But this is so important for the aesthetics of Gatlinburg, and just people notice how Gatlinburg looks better every time we do another section of it. Would you tell us what's going on with that?
Sure, and it is hard to believe that we're doing a phase 6. The way this thing got started is kind of interesting, and just to give hopefully the short story on it, is that we had made an application for I don't know, 4 or 5 years for another what's called enhancement grant, which is through the Tennessee Department of Transportation, and we had received 1 or 2 of these on a couple of the other phases, okay? So we kept submitting this application, never got funded, and I just thought, well, we'll never get funded. And then just one day out of the clear blue, which that now would have been probably, 2 years ago, last month, a couple of years ago, we got word that we had received funding. So it was just like, whoa, here we go, this is interesting. And the phase was a much smaller phase than what this has turned out to be literally under construction. And the phase was to be on the Parkway from the Convention Center, pointing down this way out front, to LeConte Street. And that was what the grant was all about. So we proceeded to get ourselves pulled together and do what all we needed to do. And that took a while to get there. And so I guess it would have been, I'm trying to think of the timing, last spring that we started then being able to come to you guys and say, okay, here's the proposed project, the scope of the project, the cost of the project, all those kind of things. In that process, a group of business folks from the South End section of town. They had already come together in a little association kind of deal, and they actually approached us about, once they heard about the project, then they started saying, well, wait a minute, would you all consider just going all the way to the park boundary and getting our side of town, our end of town done. So
right.
We don't have to suffer through this in 2 different years, 2 different construction cycles, or just get it done.
Right.
And so we said, okay, and you guys said to us, go find out how much that would cost and what the time frame would be. So our design consultant, which is Barge, Wagner, Sumner, and Cannon, and in particular a gentleman named Steve Fritz,
Who's been involved with all the other
all the
underground.
other phases, and has done a great job for us, and just that, I mean, that's the simplest thing to say, is
Right.
that he's done a great job for us. And so he said, okay, let me go talk to the contractor on the other projects, which is Efficient Electric, and a gentleman named Bill Thompson, who's also done a super job for the city on these other undergrounding projects. So they got together and they looked at it. They came back and they told us first and that it would be what the cost would be, $7.6 million, and I think the original phase was like $2.5 million at most.
Sounds about right.
And it would be $7.6 million, and in order to get it done in one construction cycle, it would have to start August 15 and go through June 30. And I think we all thought that would be the deal killer, that the business people on the South End would say, no, we can't do that. That's just crazy, because it is kind of crazy. The time frames for construction have generally been November 1st through March. Or maybe middle of April. So we go back to, y'all send me back to this group of business people, and me and Steve go and we explain the situation and go over all this with them, and they said, well, we still think we want you to do it, but can we have a couple of days to think about it? Long story longer is that they said, yeah, we want to go ahead and do this, and we all went, okay, so that is what we're doing. And so the project started on August 15 as scheduled. It is well underway. If you're in the south end of town at all, certainly if you have a business in the south end of town, you are very aware that it's well underway. And anybody traveling that area. Now, part of the project got further, I don't want to say complicated, but became even a larger project as it related to the LeConte Street Bridge. Okay, and the need to A, fix that bridge anyway, but B, in order to get across the LeConte Street, the LeConte Creek, the LeConte Creek stream, had to do some work under that bridge to get the conduits under there.
Right.
So that's also become another major part of this project. So that's why that area of LeConte Street is closed from Parkway to River Road, and will be until hopefully that part's going to be reopened by the middle of December. And certainly we hope in a good positive time frame for Ober and all of their, they do tons of business, like we hope everybody does, but they really depend on that holiday, Christmas to New Year's time frame, and so the plan is to have that the bridge project basically complete.
What's really very positive about this 6th phase is you have the same contractor, you have the same engineering firm. It's not like their first rodeo, it's not the first time they've done it, because it's under construction, but still when you drive through it, it's pretty smooth.
Yeah.
And
yes.
it's a lot less disruptive than I think you would think in your mind. And once it's done,
And either that or we've gotten used to it. I don't know,
But when it's done, it's like, you can never imagine going back and looking with all the wires and the before and afters. Are just amazing.
And the testimony to that, in my opinion, is the new commercial that I'm sure that's going to be talked about here soon on this program. But the new commercial, and for those of you who haven't seen it, I hope you get to see it, because at the end of it is the first time, and I'm pretty sure the one and only shot of downtown Gatlinburg, and it was able to be there because of the lack of wires.
Right.
And
it's a beautiful shot.
It's a beautiful shot.
It's
It's basically of the section from, I should know my traffic light numbers, but from Mountain Mall up toward the park.
6 to
and it's
9
at
or
dusk, and it's a beautiful shot that would have never been shot. It's never been shot before because it wasn't pretty enough to be shot. So, I mean, it's just tremendous, the improvement that it made. And that was your point in the beginning of this discussion, is that you got to keep the product fresh and up to date and good for folks to enjoy it.
And we have so many repeat customers when they come and see Gatlinburg is doing things. Some of the new businesses in town, new properties, new hotels, and whatnot.
Right.
But as the public sector doing something like this with a joint venture, which is so neat,
Right.
working with those businesses.
Right. And the fact, and I'm glad you said that, is to make sure that everyone remembers that this falls under the funding formula where the property owners abutting the project area pay 20% of the cost. And that's the reason that we're to a phase 6 now.
Yeah.
From my city perspective, it's like, wow, I wish we'd gotten 30 or 40 or 50%, and we might be done now. We might have completed all of Parkway, but it's great that we got the program that we have to have accomplished as much as we have.
And that's 20% that they participate in. They pay that amount, and that can be amortized over a 15-year period.
Right, that is correct.
Which is affordable.
They can either pay up front the complete assessment amount, or they can pay it over a 15-year schedule. So, and so we've gone through all those public hearings and those processes, and so here we go. Doing yet another one of these. I would say that if you've got problems, if you've got concerns, please call City Hall and let us know, so we can try to help as much as we can in what's going on in that area of town, any area of town as far as that goes, but certainly where this construction is going on. But so far so good, and
the end result's worth
it's
it.
moving along pretty well.
Yeah.
And knowing Bill Thompson, having worked with him on these other phases in his company, his superintendent on the job is the same guy, and he's great. And these guys will try to get it done as quick as they can.
And they quit work Friday noon.
Yeah, thank you.
October, hit on that.
Yes,
just a little
yes,
bit.
thank you. They stopped Friday at noon. They learned very early on that it just was really difficult to do anything after Friday at noon. So they stopped Friday at noon. They don't work on the week, Saturday or Sunday. And then due to the period of time that this is going on, we also built in the last 2 weeks of October. They are not working on the road. We have had some discussion about whatever they can do off the road that will not impede traffic flow, so that they can keep moving. So it's not. So you may see some activity going on, but it won't be on the road.
Right.
And then there's a time period around Thanksgiving. There's the time period of between Christmas and New Year's. What's the next holiday after that? There's a time period around, I guess, would it be Easter? Would that be next, probably? So there are times, the longest period not working on the actual parkway, though, is those last 2 weeks of October. The other time frames are like a week. But that was part of what the business folks did say is, October's really, really important. So that I appreciate you bringing that up. That's another important point. So,
but I just thought of this. It's always just so exciting to see when the last wires are pulled through the duct bank, and then the above wires and the poles are all taken down.
it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
And there'll be new streetscape and the
sidewalk.
lighting,
It will carry through what has happened in the other phases with the new concrete sidewalk and the brick banding, with the street lighting, with the street furniture, and with landscaping as much as is viable in these areas. And I guess maybe a final comment would be the obvious, but talking about the compact nature of town, the special things that we have to sell include being this pedestrian town that we are.
Exactly.
And that you truly can come here and you truly can park your car or if you're staying downtown in your motel room, or if you're not staying downtown, ride a trolley in, and you can walk all over our town. And so this just enhances that pedestrian experience.
That's neat that you said that, because I remember first time I ever visited Gatlinburg, it was 1976, and the one thing that we did was walk from one end of town to the other. I mean, it's just something that people really enjoy doing, and there's not a lot of places you can do that.
Right.
That's safe, family friendly, and just a walking community. So
Right.
This is very exciting, and we did have some free trolleys this summer.
Yes, and that is a great segue to that discussion.
That worked out really good.
It did. You all authorized a pilot program back in the summer for, I guess, 5-6 weeks. Let me look at a couple of notes here, Mayor. It was actually 49 days, June 27 to August 14, and this was a free shuttle from from the south end of Parkway to the north end of Parkway. And the idea came out of a tourism advisory board kind of committee. It actually, I think, was called the Community Enhancement Committee. That probably came more out of a tourism summit than anything. Anyways, the idea came out of several of us sitting around a table talking with our mass transit manager, Buddy Parton. And that's how the idea got its little wings. And so during that period, again, 49 days, of course it was free, and I can hear people saying, well, yeah, it was free. Well, yeah, it was free. The trolleys carried a little over 63,000 passengers, averaging 1,287 riders per day.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And so,
you know, the night that we, with the entire commission, rode the trolleys, it
right.
was really fun.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
people would get on, and they were just saying how much they enjoyed Gatlinburg, how much fun they were having. And we would see people that would be getting off at different areas, and it just, to me, just worked really good. A way to move people around.
And that's very simply the idea, isn't it, Mayor? Is that to give the visitor the opportunity to go from one end of Parkway to the other end of Parkway, and to truly stretch the city.
Yeah.
And so, and it was really kind of cool that night. It was actually very hot that night, kind of like what it is in here right now. But it was really a neat thing to do. And you know, we just had all people were so positive on there. So.
And the trolleys looked great. They were open air,
right?
And they had nice
open as much as we could get it. I mean, there was some desire to truly have like a San Francisco streetcar kind of thing, and we didn't quite get that put together, and still are actually thinking and looking at that. So.
Then they were what do you call it?
Wrapped. With the.
They looked great.
Yeah. Yes, they did. They did. So, the pilot program was over August the 14th, and then we did do another deal over Labor Day weekend. And quite candidly, we're kind of at the point where it's not in the budget to do, and we all knew that. We knew that this was a pilot effort to see how it goes, and so I'm sure over the next month that the most we'll be having some discussion, both with the committee from whence this idea came, and then certainly with you city commissioners about what we do in the future, and do we continue this, and see where we go to from there.
it makes you think, where do we go from here? How do we take it to the next step, or how
Right.
do we make sure that we can do it again?
Right, right. And I mean, I'm kind of guessing ahead, but I would certainly think that we would be looking to funding the continuation of this program at some level. So that was a great segue into that, and I'm not real sure how to segue.
Next? I can segue. I can try to segue into the next.
Well, I'm kind of back on a little capital projects list that I
good,
made.
good.
Okay, it's good. And coming off of Parkway, up this road that I still call Airport Road.
It is Airport Road.
Yeah, it is Airport Road, Historic Nature / Airport Road. We get up to another beautiful area of town, that being Minot Park,
Which is
and
very
the Assembly
nice.
Grounds area. And there we have a bridge project occurring. And actually, TDOT is doing the bridge project. They are fully funding it, which was a great thing for the city. When these bridge grants occur from TDOT, we usually have to come up with 20% of the cost, and this was, I think they were still using some federal stimulus money from a couple of years ago, and therefore it's fully funded, which has again been really good for the city. You all did authorize something like $14,000 or $15,000 to do some rock improvement and some railings and rock, a little different than what the state would normally do it. So that is that really old bridge, the original bridge, and I knew at one point, I couldn't tell you right now how that is, but really old bridge in really poor condition. Yeah. It was a really important project to do, a really necessary project to do, as much as any other reason, so the city can get emergency vehicles into that neighborhood.
Absolutely.
So I say that because I know there has been a lot of concern in the neighborhood. We know that. We've had folks come to the city commission meeting to express those concerns, as well they should.
Sure. And we understand that.
And we understand
of
that.
course.
Many years ago, I lived in the Assembly Grounds myself and loved the area, and so I certainly didn't like to see the trees get gone that had to be removed in order for the project to occur. So I'm saying all this to say that I'm, I guess this is kind of a silly way to put it, but I'm sorry that there had to be the aesthetic impact with the removal of the trees, but that is just what had to happen in order for a new safe bridge structure to be introduced into that neighborhood. And you all have already told us that as soon as the project is complete, you want us to send our expert horticulturalist. Well, that'd be Jana Bryan, and then Randall is the arborist, a tree specialist, and that we want to go up there and we want to see. And we're not saying that we're going to be able to do anything, but we certainly want to go see what we can do to revegetate the area. Hopefully, even replant some trees in the area. But that's certainly after TDOT gets complete. And just to kind of wrap it up by saying that there was found a soils problem that related to them having to redesign some of the foundation work, so they've kind of come to a halt up there temporarily because that had to go all the way back through all the environmental review. So now they're saying that the project, they're saying that the project will not be complete until the middle of December. And we announced that at the last city commission meeting, or even the one before. So
originally it was going to be,
I think, the end of October. Yeah.
Okay.
So again, I know it's very disruptive for the neighborhood. I do think the signalization, I've been in and out up there myself several times, and it seems to be working pretty well. That's easy for me to say because I'm not living up there right now, but we haven't heard too much about that. So again, any concerns, we certainly encourage folks to let us know, either through your commissioners or calling City Hall, or through the street department, Larry Henderson, any number of ways you can get that communicated to us. But it was just a really important project to capture the opportunity to get it done, because it really
had to
needed to be done,
Yeah.
and to get it done with full funding from TDOT.
That's great. You know what was interesting is we were up in Minot Park the other day visiting some friends, and I know this has nothing to do with the bridge, but the tennis program really is just going gangbusters. Every court was occupied. I've never seen so much activity.
Great.
So that was really a positive thing. And you know, getting back to the bridge being fully funded and having a brand new bridge is something that we absolutely had to do.
Right, right. So.
But the tennis is going great.
Good, that's great. That is great.
Okay, what else?
And so then, let's see, where am I? Capital projects. The next one would be to discuss a city greenhouse project that we didn't necessarily anticipate, but it came about. We've known for a couple of years. The county's school system is building a new gymnasium at Gatlinburg Pittman High School, and very much needed.
Right.
And so it so happens that the gym went right under where the greenhouse was, or right on top of it, or I'm not exactly sure how you describe that, because the greenhouse was up here and they dug down here. But anyway,
it's got to be moved.
We actually had to dismantle the old greenhouse. Had to be dismantled back in February, like January, sometime early February. The school system let us temporarily house all of our flowers in the old Pittman Center School. And so in the meantime, then we set about bidding out, used our new greenhouse, and you guys authorized a month or so ago the purchase of a new greenhouse facility, which really was needed because the old greenhouse was 15 years old or something of that nature. That is what is going on. I did want to read some statistics that they gave me, because I forget these, and they kind of blow your mind when you hear them, as to how important and vital a program this is for the city. Again, for the residents, but for the visitors, you know, as it relates to the product and keeping the product fresh and good. These are the numbers. The flower program includes over 30,000 winter, spring flowers, and over 40,000 summer annuals used in 85 flower beds, 483 hanging baskets, 540 hay racks, and 70 sidewalk planters. So it's a big investment as it relates to really having as good of facilities as we can for what is really a really important program to the city. Do we have to have flowers? No, we don't have to have flowers. Do we have to have tourists? Yeah, we really need to have tourists. And I think, again, this is just part of that whole keeping the product inviting.
Right. And that, you know, besides undergrounding and people, you know, talking and, you know, commenting on how much better town looks, the other thing is you hear about the flower program,
right,
and how beautiful it is, the hanging baskets, flowers, you know, throughout the city. It just brings a lot of beauty and life to the city, so very important.
Yes. So that's another project that is actually hopefully the new greenhouse will be in place by the middle to the end of October. The end of October is when everything's got to get put up that can't withstand the frost. And so the goal and the hope and the desire is that's going to be doable, and that's where we're headed, is come the 1st of October, the folks that we awarded the bid to for the new greenhouse, a company called Atlas, I think was the name of it, that they will be here, and it will be ready for them to be here to do this. And the new location, I guess I need to say, is very simply across the road, below the community center and the library. And so it seemed like a simple move across the road that was, you know, somewhat challenging at different points in time, but we're there, and 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 of course the school system has granted us a lease. That's school system property, and they very graciously, Dr. Parton and his folks granted us a lease there. So we're about doing a new greenhouse project that again could sound trite to some, but it certainly is a very important thing to us.
Definitely.
Okay.
Okay.
A couple of other topics, I guess, Mayor, would be related to, I think, always like to take the opportunity to remind folks about what happens at Sevier Solid Waste, and in particular at our composting plant, in the regard that we have a sense that some may have a sense that we're not doing as much as we need to do in regards to recycling and reduction of waste. And just to emphasize the success and the importance of that compost facility, and the fact that the reduction rate for the 2010 period was 97%.
That's incredible.
Now, what that means is, I would like to say that means truly 97% of the garbage went away or got recycled or whatever, got composted and then got recycled. What it means is that it relates to the reduction of the amount of garbage going into a traditional landfill cell. And I get my class numbers messed up. There's a class 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, and I usually reverse them. But basically the 97% reduction rate means that we were able to, either through the compost process or selling of compost, doing the compost, selling it, putting compost in the ground, and recycling, which there is recycling that occurs down at the facility, that we were able to reduce to only 3% of the garbage in this county, this is countywide, going into the super duper landfill class that, again, I get those confused. I think it's a class 3. So that is huge. There is no one else in the state that can claim that. I dare say, I'm now going out there, I know there's nobody else in the state that can claim it, but I dare say in the Southeast.
I'd say a few places in the
country.
Our country or in the world. I mean, look at how much garbage is produced daily in this county. And if we didn't have this, it'd all be just going into a traditional landfill, which really affects the environment.
Absolutely.
And it's hard in our county to find anybody that wants to let it near where they live.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of challenges, hauling it off to another county or whatever. So it's really remarkable, the amount of composting and recycling and being able to put the garbage into a construction landfill.
Exactly. And when the decision was made 15 years ago, how long has that compost plant been there? At least 15, I guess. Even maybe 18. To go this route, it was heavily predicated upon the fact that there are so many restaurants in this county, which have only grown since then. And that's what has made it also so very successful, because that's what compost. And so I just always want to take the opportunity when we're in these kind of settings to remind our residential public, our business people, and our visiting public about this, because we do get, especially from visitors to the area, we'll get the comments about letters even, where's the recycling and all those kind of things, and we respond to them and try to explain all this to them. But the other thing that we've done in an effort to educate, actually, you brought up this idea, probably 3 years ago. It's only taken 3 years to get there, slow but sure, but is to put a logo on, or some kind of statement, and I guess logo is what we decided to call it, on all of the garbage trucks, in everybody's garbage trucks in the county. And they finally took it, and they would be Sevier Solid Waste with Keep Sevier Beautiful, and then the Mountain Press helped them, and they had an art contest, and all the high schools, and I may have already talked about this. Have I, Kevin? I don't. Is this? I hope this is new. But anyway, there was an art contest in all the high schools last spring, and then I think that there was a vote through the Mountain Press for 4 different logo ideas,
Right.
and the winner got a $50 gift certificate or $100 or whatever. But anyway, it's a neat little program for the high school art students. And so I guess a month ago, finally now that logo has been made, and Tom Leonard came up with Brian Fortner, who's actually the Public Works Director in Sevierville. But Tom borrowed a Sevierville truck to put it on, so he brought it, he's taken it around to all of us to see it. You got to see it, and it really looks pretty cool.
It is. It's, and that was neat getting all the different art students or, the students in all the high schools involved. But it shows this garbage truck that's actually eating garbage in the front, like with a mouth, and then it's dumping this compost, and then a plant's actually growing. So it was quite clever, but I think we just really want not only our residents, but our guests, our tourists, to know that we are very concerned about the environment.
Yes.
We are very proactive about recycling. And if we just did traditional recycling, we could never reach the numbers that we're reaching by the composting plant.
Exactly.
So, it's great, and it's I think something that you can look back and say, thankfully people made the right decision 15 or 18 years ago to go this route.
Right.
And being neighbors to the Smoky Mountain National Park, it's so important that we are proactive in this area. So
Yes.
it's good,
Yeah,
good stuff. But
yeah.
I just think if people see that, it's going to let a lot of people know what we are doing.
I think so too. And so perhaps the last topic,
Okay.
maybe, unless you all come up with something else here at the last minute, the segue to that is really a good segue as it relates to environmental concerns and sustainability. And that would be to talk just a little bit about some of the things that we've done as a city organization. I know we've talked before about this, but we have actually accomplished a few more things. We received a Tennessee Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant, and that was in the amount of $70,000. And what we have done with that is that we have changed out, and let me read here, bear with me, we've switched out T12 bulbs and ballast in favor of T8 tubes and ballast in numerous city buildings and complexes. And quite honestly, it's virtually every city building, okay?
With energy saving
Correct,
bulbs.
with the T8s is what is the general terminology with T8s. And I got a report on this just this past Monday at our little public works meetings that we do, and we have indeed changed out just about everything. I think there's some more to change out here in this facility in the convention center, but the convention center had already done a ton of stuff a couple of years ago anyway. But the other thing that we have accomplished with this grant money is that we have changed out all the traffic signals lights to LED.
That's big.
And
That's huge.
so that's big. And so we've been talking about doing this. Actually, we asked you guys to fund it like 3 years ago, and you did. And then that's when the economy started going down, and we decided we didn't need to be spending any money on capital. I know you're very much aware of that. That is that's something that we've wanted to do for a while, and that has now been fully done and fully accomplished. A couple of other things I would mention would be related to the energy savings I just mentioned in this building. Have saved nearly 30% in electrical usage over the past couple of years.
They're doing it today.
Okay, yeah, they certainly are. We have no air in the fireplace on because Kevin wanted the fireplace on. So, but they've done really great work here. Debbie Orsborn and Scott and the whole crew here have been very, and of course, led by David Perella, they've been very diligent about doing things here to improve the power usage. The other thing that's happened that you guys just approved at a commission meeting recently is we have entered into an interNOC agreement. And this is a agreement that will aid with the monitoring of power usage at this facility and could result in rebates from TVA based on energy savings during peak demand episodes. This is a program that TVA, along with this company called interNOC, they've partnered up and they have created this program that if we were to be able, which we probably can, peak demand being especially in the summertime, and so we know that there are some times that in this building they can ask us to cut everything off, and we can do that, and we can therefore help TVA, but it also, we get a rebate on it.
That's a great program.
So that's a good program. And there were only 2 facilities that that the city owns that qualified, and there was a threshold you had to meet as to power usage, and right now I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was this building, this convention center, and then the main water pumping station at the north end of the spur. We call it the Ranmore Station, but that relates to the Douglas Lake water that we get that is so critical to the supply of water in our town. And because there's huge pumps down there that related there. We thought City Hall would qualify, but it turns out City Hall has several different meters, and due to it's at 1 meter an amount of power usage that had to meet. That's how the program was structured. Mm-hmm. So you guys approved that at the last meeting. This is something our little internal City Green Committee has been working on and trying to get done. And the other thing is related to electric car charging ports, and there's already a couple in town. I know at the Alamo and Bennett's Barbecue, I guess Bruce Johnson I guess I can say Bruce Johnson, who's the owner of those restaurants, is already participating in this Ecotality program, and we've had to really work with them to get the agreement structured to where it passes the review of the city attorney. Mm-hmm. And so we're in that process and think we might be able to bring something to you commissioners at an upcoming city commission meeting. And what that simply means is that we would put some charging ports at a couple of parking facilities, in particular the McMahon Parkway parking mm-hmm. garage mm-hmm. and the 441 parking lot are a couple of the places that we've talked about. So that's in the works. And I know that the chamber, through their Go Green efforts, and of course they got a great award for that right. just a couple of months ago. But I know that they've been disseminating this information to the business community, and I'm sure that's how Alamo and Bennett's Barbecue got involved, and there may be some others. So I apologize if I'm not saying other business names, but anyway, right. It's a really interesting program, and it's something that the city, we're trying to get it to where the city can actually enter into an agreement with these folks, and so that's what we're working on, and we're hoping to bring to you soon.
Sounds good. Sounds great.
So the only other thing I think that I skipped over that hit me is just to mention our wayfinding program that's been on. What made me think about it were the LED lights on again, off again.
Mm-hmm. Sort of like this light here.
Figuratively and literally, yeah, like that one over there. Is to say that you all have funded the wayfinding program in the past. Again, just like with the LED lights, we said, no, let's not do any capital. You know, we need to not spend that money. Yeah. But you all have authorized, I think it's somewhere around $180,000, which is not the full program, but we looked at specific parts of the program and said, well, let's try a couple of these and a couple of these and a couple of these. So mm-hmm. that's literally out on bid right now. And so it'll be very interesting to see how those bids come in, and we'll be coming, of course, to you guys once we get those and discussing those and whether or not we want to begin this process that we really do need to begin to change out old area directional signage and try to upgrade that too, because that area directional signage is now, I guess, pushing 20 years old.
Yeah.
So it's certainly time for us to do something about that. So we'll be talking more about that in our next little session.
And it'll go very well with the undergrounding, with all
Yes.
of the streetscape, and to help people find their way around. I mean,
Right.
that's so important. If you go to some place you've never been before, which a lot of
Yes.
people end up here,
Yes.
it's like, where am I going? How do
Right.
I get there? So it's another thing to improve the product.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Very good. Well, Cindy, thanks. Thanks for all the information and updates. Gatlinburg never sleeps. There's
Yeah.
always something, and I think that what's exciting to me is even in these tough economic times, you see new things being built in Gatlinburg. You see things happening, and that's very encouraging because, you know, it's a great place to live, great place to visit, and we just want people to be happy when they come here.
Absolutely, and happy when they're living here. And I think if we're not, you know, we look at these mountains, and I just thank God every day that that I was blessed to be here.
I agree.
And I'm sure you feel the same, and Kevin does, and I hope the majority of folks out there do, because it is such a blessing to live here and to be able to be involved in a community that is as vibrant as we are, like you say, even in difficult times. So I appreciate that and appreciate being able to be here today.
Very good. Thanks,
Okay.
Cindy.
Thank you.
Mhm.